Hi everyone, I'm Xiaobing, and today I'm reviewing the VOGE RR 500S. It's another Chinese-made 500 class 4-cylinder sports bike. The competition for 4-cylinder bikes this year is going to be a bloodbath. There should be another major battle in terms of performance and price. Right, let's put the important specs for this bike up here. From these specs, you can see that its maximum revs are lower than the Jiangsu 500RS. The displacement is 5cc more, just a tiny bit. What do you get in return? More torque. Besides the increase in torque, its peak torque also arrives earlier in the rev range than on the Jiangsu 500R. In other words, looking just at the specs on paper, you can see it as a small sports bike with more power than the Jiangsu 500R at low revs, but not as much at high revs. Of course, anyone can read out specs, that's why there are so many armchair reviewers. As for whether this spec sheet reflects the actual riding experience and how it differs from Jiangsu's 500R, we'll also be conducting a real-world test for you.
Now for today's review.
As new bikes replace the old this year, allow me to help you avoid wasting your hard-earned cash on a bad purchase. Now for the boring specs section again. The VOGE RR 500S. Let's start with the front. The front end does have a bit of an MV Agusta feel to it. The headlight isn't prominent. It's replaced by an air intake. The headlight's so subtle, is its nighttime performance poor. I took it for a night ride on mountain roads, so let's show you some footage. You can see the cutoff line for the low beam is quite clear, and the brightness is guaranteed. The high beam also illuminates the road surface well ahead on mountain roads. The overall rating is quite high. It's just that its beam spread might be a bit narrow. So, when cornering on mountain roads at night, it doesn't have that high-end feature found on imported bikes where the lights turn inwards based on lean angle detection. Riding hard on mountain roads at night, you'll still find the beam's width lacking. But the brightness is guaranteed, as the actual footage shows. As for the look, it's an original design. It's alright. I don't love it, but it's definitely not ugly. Now for the tire setup. 120 at the front, 160 at the rear. The 160 looks less mean than the Jiangsu 500S 180. But honestly, for this class of bike, a 160 tire on a 500 4-cylinder is a reasonable setup. I took the stock CSD sports grade tires for a ride in the mountains, and I was very confident in their grip. Not in the wet, of course. With warm tires on dry ground, the grip gives immense confidence. Twin discs, dual opposed 4-piston calipers. You can really trust them, plus, the build quality looks good. What really surprised me about this bike is that the brake feel is extremely good. It's almost at the level of an imported supersport bike, and I'm not exaggerating. If you actually give it a squeeze, you'll know. The free play is adjusted perfectly. The initial free play is just this short. 2 fingers are all you need. You don't even need to use 4. The feel of this master cylinder is tuned very well. A big thumbs up. You'll know once you actually ride it. Of the Chinese bikes I've tested recently, I personally feel this is the one with the best match brake master cylinder. The fuel tank has a full 15.1 litre capacity. We rode it dry and it took about 15 litres to fill up. So the stated capacity is accurate. For its class, the size is fine, not too small, nor especially large. And with tank capacity, you have to mention the weight. It's relatively heavy compared to others in its class. The official curb weight is 192 kilograms. When we actually weighed it with a full tank of fuel, it's a bit heavier than the official figure. Let's look at the actual weigh-in footage. VOGE RR 500's front wheel, 104.1 with a full tank. VOGE RR 500's rear wheel, 94.9. Okay, we're back. The actual weight is in the 190s, under 200. Although it's not very light, I feel it's relatively acceptable when you actually ride it. It's better than bikes that weigh over 200 kilograms. Speaking of the fuel tank, let's look at the paintwork. Here's a close-up. Compared to the Jiangsu 500R, I think the paintwork is slightly better. It still has a bit of a mirror effect, although it's not a perfect mirror finish. I personally find this paintwork acceptable. Just take a look at the footage we just shot. The rear view mirrors are adjustable. That adjustment knob is a plus point, I think. As for the detents, there are 2 steps here. The detents feel quite good. It can be folded roughly like this. VOGE bikes have a special feature. An adjustable exhaust valve. Press this button, and the exhaust note becomes a bit deeper. I don't know, their product manager seems to be really particular about the exhaust sound. The first one we tested was a 525R, which had a plug at the back that allowed you to manually adjust its exhaust note. The VOGE 660 we tested later already had a button to adjust the exhaust note. It's the same for this 500. You can adjust the exhaust note with a single press of a button, with 2 sounds to choose from. Actually, the sound of this bike is really good. It's a bit deeper than the Jiangsu's, which has more high-frequency sounds. Let's actually listen to the engine's exhaust note. Right, I'm back. Hopefully the recording's okay. I've recorded both modes. Personally, for a 500cc 4-cylinder, I think this has one of the best sounds. Not much extraneous noise. Now, let's look further back. This time, the build quality of the exhaust pipe is a bit better than the Jiangsu 500R we saw last time. Of course, the one on the Jiangsu 500R isn't bad. You can clearly see that the Jiangsu 500S exhaust pipe is similar to the one on the R1. As a tribute to the R1, I bought this picture. The R1's own build quality was just so-so. So, as it's a tribute, the resulting build quality is just average, just like the R1. This VOGE's exhaust pipe feels like a tribute to the BMW's Akrapovic. Personally, I think the stock Akrapovic pipe on the BMW S1000R looks better than the one on the R1. So I think VOGE's tribute looks better than Jiangsu's. Next, let's look at the taillight. I think it's just average. I prefer tail lights with a uniform light strip. This tail light is like the old style with many diamond-like reflector facets, so it doesn't look very uniform. The quality of the tail light is pretty average. As for the swing arm here, the swing arm is okay. It looks better than the Japanese 400cc class bikes. Okay, moving up. There's a charging port here, which is pretty much standard on Chinese bikes these days. We also tested the charging output. It supports QC30, and that's not an inflated claim. PD can reach about 25 to 30 watts. Of the bikes we've tested, this one's charging isn't slow. The earliest were just 5 volts 1 amp, 5 volts 2 amps, and 5 volts 2.5 amps. It's alright now, but personally, I feel this windscreen design is a bit low. When I was actually testing the top speed, I felt in a tuck that my helmet couldn't get completely behind the windscreen. If it were made a bit higher, it would probably be more practical. Right, that's all for the specs. So now let's go out for a ride. Next, let's check the riding posture. The seat height's right here. I'm 178 centimeters tall and weigh 65 kilograms. My legs are bent quite a bit, as you can see. Sitting on it, the seat feels slightly lower than the Jiangsu 5. The Jiangsu 500R isn't high either. This one's even lower. At 170 centimeters, you can easily plant both feet. Even at 165 centimeters, you should be able to ride it. Let's take a look at the tuck position. The handlebars are also set a bit higher. If I ride completely upright, here, off, and high. When I'm actually in a tuck, I always feel like I can't get my head completely behind the windscreen. You can really feel this when testing the top speed. The top half of your head still catches some wind. It would be better if it was set a bit higher. So that was the riding posture. Now for some first-person view footage of the VOGE RR 500S. The triple clamps look really smart now. They look great, don't they? The build quality is really good. It's a shame the front forks are non-adjustable. The last Jiangsu suspension was adjustable, but the front forks weren't. A bit of a letdown. This standard version has a reserved mounting point here. Factory-fitted steering damper. Our standard version doesn't have it either,
but it has pre-drilled mounting points, so you can install one yourself later. The switchgear is the usual VOGE setup. It's perfectly fine, neither a bonus nor a drawback. It's quite decent for a Chinese bike. The instrument cluster, it looks about the same size as the CF Motos, 5 inches. But let's turn it on. At night, the screen to body ratio doesn't look very good. In the daytime, the quality looks fine, so you can't really tell. But at night, this black border is this wide. The view just isn't quite as good. Sport or normal? Normal's ugly. Sport is better. There's a slight difference between the two power modes, which I'll tell you about when we're riding. The font on this display looks quite large. Unlike the Jiangsu, where the font is several sizes smaller, this one shows the mileage, and the quickshifter is active. Nothing else to mention. There's no tire pressure display either. Only the high spec has tire pressure display. The standard doesn't. That covers the first person view. The light sensor's good. The brake reservoir also looks nice. Let's start it and hear the engine.
Okay, let's start it up and get riding. This sound is really nice, but it has that neutral gear protection. Let me check the RPM limit for it. The neutral gear protection is below 5,000 RPM, so in neutral, no matter how hard you rev, you'll only get to just over 4,000. I'll shift into first gear. Let's check the high revs. In first gear, if you pull in the clutch, there's no protection. This sound is really good. We'll start off in sport mode now. Again, we'll first test if the throttle surges. Third gear, and some novices ask why I don't use first gear to test for throttle surge. Saying third gear is meaningless. I'm telling you, in first gear, most imported bikes are unmanageable. Take a Lambretta. In first gear, the throttle is going to surge. It's just what happens, so the conclusion is, almost every bike surges in first, with only a very small number that don't. So we can test for surge in third gear, right? Third gear, 3,000 RPM. Third gear, fully close the throttle, and roll off. Fully close the throttle, and then roll off. You can see it on camera. There's a bit of surge. The surge is probably a little less than the Jiangsu's in sport mode. There's a bit of surge at low revs in sport mode. Right, let's try 5,000 RPM. 5,000 RPM, close the throttle. Open the throttle again, close the throttle. Open the throttle again, close the throttle. Open the throttle again. It eases off a bit at 5,000 RPM. It doesn't surge as much as at 3,000 RPM, but the surge is still slightly less than the Jiangsu 500S at 5,000 RPM in sport mode. Now let's test normal mode. We'll switch to normal. Right, same again. Normal mode, third gear, 3,000 RPM. Roll off, roll on. Roll off, roll on. Roll off, roll on. Oh, normal mode eases it up. However, there's still some surge in normal mode. A bit more surge than the Jiangsu's novice mode. But it's similar to the Jiangsu's normal mode. It's not like the Jiangsu 500 where there's a huge difference in throttle tuning between sport and novice modes. If they could tune out the surge completely, that would be a real bonus. Let's try it at 5,000 RPM. Roll off the throttle, then back on. Roll off. Back at 5,000 RPM. There's still a tiny bit of surge. The Jiangsu's novice mode is tuned to have almost no surge at all. At 5,000 RPM, you can film it. There's still a little bit of surge. Okay, I've tested the throttle for you. Next, let's seriously ride the mountain roads. For mountain roads, we'll switch to sport and try out the sport mode directly.
Getting up to speed now.
This bike is better for mountain roads than the Jiangsu. Its low-end torque is clearly stronger than the Jiangsu 500. You don't need to maintain such high revs, taking this corner normally. Wobbles, still wobbles. The suspension is still on the soft side. A stiffly tuned suspension would bounce and wobble on that last corner. The tires on this bike give a lot of confidence. Approaching in fifth gear. Downshift to third at low revs. Let's see if I can take this corner in third gear. I can take it in third gear. If it were the mode, if it were the Jiangsu setup, I definitely couldn't have taken that last corner in third gear. This bike is great for mountain roads. No problem. I took the double corner in second gear, but I reckon third would work too. There's enough torque in third gear. It's fine. The gears are perfectly adequate. I'm doing great. This is the best Chinese-made 4-cylinder bike I've ridden on mountain roads recently. I've actually ridden it to show you. Throttle's touchy, but manageable. The brakes are fantastic. The brakes, their feel is just like an imported bike's. The clearance is also right, and the feel of braking to a stop with 2 fingers is also right. I'll demonstrate it for you. Just a light squeeze with 2 fingers. A light squeeze with 2 fingers and the ABS is triggered. I'll ride a bit faster in a moment and do another stop to show you the 2-finger braking. Let's see if there's a long straight. Up ahead is a long straight, accelerating to 100. 2-finger braking. I can easily trigger the ABS with 2 fingers. You don't need 4 fingers at all. These brakes are very good. I rate them highly. Let's try the rear brake. Rear brake. The foot feel of the rear brake is a bit on the stiff side. But it's okay. I don't use the rear brake much on mountain roads anyway. If you stomp on it, you'll find the foot feel is a bit too stiff. As for the rear brake's feel, I think it doesn't really trigger the ABS much, so the foot feel is a bit lacking. Brilliant! Let's corner. This bike is really good for taking corners, mainly because you don't have to rev it so high, so you feel less of a gyroscopic effect. You can generally keep it in the mid-range RPM, between 5,000 and 9,000 RPM, to handle entering and exiting corners. Last time, with that high-revving Jiangsu model, the biggest problem was if you weren't at 8,000 or 9,000 RPM, you couldn't exit the corner properly, which was very frustrating. But if you drop slightly below 8,000 RPM, you'll feel like you need to downshift. But on some corners, there's no gear left to shift down to, which is quite frustrating, constantly fighting with the RPMs. This bike is very easy to get the hang of on mountain roads. Right. We've switched to normal mode. Let's ride back for a bit. On the way back, we'll try to use a higher gear to show everyone that the low-end torque is still quite good. Let's use 4th gear for the entire run this time. No need to downshift either. If the speed drops, just let it drop. I followed it closely all the way, right on its tail. Just now, I was even exiting corners at 5,000, 6,000 RPM. The bike stability is also quite good. And it really doesn't feel like a typical 4-cylinder where high revs in a corner affect the bike's ability to turn in. I can take this corner in 4th gear just the same. I've shown everyone. Getting the RPMs to around here is enough. I just took all the corners at just over 5,000 RPM, and I stayed in 4th gear the whole time without shifting, and it was still a smooth ride. I rate this bike quite highly for mountain riding, really. As you can see from me actually riding it. It's not that I just read out the spec sheet and tell everyone it's highly rated. It genuinely is a good ride. I even think its gear ratio setup makes it ride better on this road than the previous bikes.
Having usable low-end torque makes me very optimistic about the competition among domestic 4-cylinder bikes this year. A newer bike is definitely going to be tuned better than the previous ones, right? That's what makes it competitive. Besides VOGE, I'm also looking forward to seeing CF Moto, Commuter, and Zongshan continue to make waves in this category.
Okay, that's it for the first-person view footage. Next, we'll go and test the acceleration. The top-end power doesn't feel as strong as the Jiangsu model. The test results probably won't be better than the Jiangsu model. But the low-end torque really is there.
Right, tests. Go. Low rev quick shifter. Try to shift at around 3000 RPM. Second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, sixth gear. Let's try again. That's it. Let's try the quick shifter too. Yes, its gear shift travel is quite long, so it doesn't feel as smooth to use. It's a one-way quick shifter, no downshifting. Let's do that again. Third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, second gear. I'm struggling.
Yes, the travel is a bit long, so you have to press it firmly enough. Right, quickly. You can't press it halfway. It gets stuck if you do. If the travel were a bit shorter, that would be a bonus.